What's up, guys? Welcome back to the All Gains podcast. Today, we are going to get into a discussion about Stoicism and emotional self-control. This is mainly targeted at men because I believe that it is very important for men to have emotional self-control at all times, especially in the world today. So let's get into this and see what's going on. Alright, guys, so before we begin the discussion, I want to exactly tell the audience who may not know what Stoicism is and why it's important. So, Stoicism is a school of philosophy that hails from ancient Greece and Rome in the early parts of the 3rd century BC. It is a philosophy of life that maximizes positive emotions, reduces negative emotions, and helps individuals to hone their virtues of character. So, basically, Stoicism teaches the development of self-control and fortitude as a means of overcoming destructive emotions. The philosophy holds that becoming a clear and unbiased thinker allows one to understand the universal reason. So, this is obviously an old sort of way of thinking, of philosophy, and there are many people today who practice this, and we seem to be losing this practice as we go on because, as we've discussed on previous podcasts, right, we sort of live in a world of emotionalism right now. We freak out over the littlest things. The internet controls our minds, even though we have the power to overcome that, and we are sometimes unable to control ourselves in the crazy, hectic world that we are confronted with.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think people know this and they take advantage of that. So a lot of businesses, media, people out here, they know that they can get to people's emotions. So that sells money too.
Yeah. So. We live in a consumer type of reality at the moment, and so producers, people who make things for people to buy, know that they can play with people's emotions and they can, control their emotions in a specific way and alter them in a way where they can make the most money, to make the most profit. So of course, they're going to try to create whatever they can to do that and to do it and perfect it to a way where they can control their consumers to keep buying and buying, regardless if the product is actually good or if it actually gives them any sort of purpose or any sort of, if it adds to their life in any sort of way. Because the phone is a big thing. The phone in the beginning, when the phone was first created, was created as a tool that was necessary and it was a good, evolutionary standpoint. But when we got to the point of smartphones, that's where things started to get, started to go downhill in the emotional way, because people now were able to get more, addicted to the phones. And so then once these producers realized these things, then they knew that they had them, and they can create whatever they want. They can do whatever they want to these phones, and people will still buy them. People will buy the softwares that they need, and people will just be controlled by it, and it's their own doing.
Definitely. I mean, like you said, at first it was the main point was just to communicate better, and then at one point they realized that they had an object that can promote entertainment, social media, business transactions, do all type of things, and that escalated everything. How we interact, how we deal now with if you gotta buy stuff, you can just do it through your phone and things like that. So it makes it a lot easier for certain things, but there's also a lot of room for addictions, bad habits, and pretty much losing control and self-destruction in a way. So I think there's from my own experience, I how do I say this? I believe that a lot of people may be having troubles with procrastination, because it's so easy right now to get into the phones and any other like video games and stuff like that. So I believe Stoicism can provide a better way of handling this type of how do you say obstacles.
Yeah, I'm a big procrastinator. I've always been a big procrastinator. I feel like it's because of all these types of distractions and these things, and it kind of sucks because like these distractions, especially when you're a kid, like you want to try to have fun however you can.
Oh, yeah.
So you got this cool video game. Oh, I want to play this video game, but it's distracting you from other things that you could be doing and learning. And because of that, you could be failing school. You could be missing out on how to ride a bike You could be missing out on a whole bunch of different things that that you should be finding out how to do, but instead you're spending all this time. Let's use the example of playing a video game. That's what happened to me a lot because I didn't learn a lot. I had to learn stuff, later because
Right.
I was just too busy playing a game, and I couldn't help that because I really wanted to play it, and that was because of the emotion of me wanting to play that game kind of took over, and I just
yeah.
I just didn't care about anything else other than that.
Yeah, well, it's like important to know. Like when you're on these social media apps and you're on this technology, these apps are specifically made to have you emote. Like they want to trigger something in the brain and want you to start thinking and want you to react in a certain way that benefits them. They want you to react in a way that makes you want to keep scrolling to the next post. So if you're on Twitter and you see something like an article, something that's sort of like induced with drama, indignation, and gets you thinking, and it wants to make you outraged, because if you get outraged, you're going to want to know more about it, and it's going to keep you on that app for a longer duration of time, and that duration of time gets recorded by the company or whatever app that it may be, and then it studies you pretty much on what you look at, because all these apps, and they all track like what you're doing and how long you're viewing it for. It's part of the analytics, I'm sure, like in the main base. Oh, yeah. So when you are constantly scrolling and you're looking and you're feeding into this information that they know they're going to get a reaction out of you, the longer you spend on these apps and the more you research and all this kind of stuff, it actually fuels them and gives them more knowledge and power to what they can use to manipulate the masses and what they can get you to react to. So like in today's political climate, how they always have these indignation and drama-filled articles about what's going on in the news and what's going on with all the trials and current events that are currently. They know that you're going to want to look at it, and they know that when you see like a headline, like a title of something that sparks like emotion and tries to trigger you, pretty much, it knows that you're going to go into it and you're going to look at more information, and that keeps you on the app for longer, and it still helps the revenue in the end, and it makes them more popular, because if they can bypass and get into your head and get into your emotions by you spending time on that app, it's actually going to make them more powerful. So Twitter, Facebook, like TikTok, the more time you spend on it, naturally, it's going to consume you more, and the more it consumes you, the more power you give to them. I see like one of the best solutions is to honestly do your best to limit your time on these apps, because they have the potential. They don't have to, but they do have the potential to destroy your mind. And it gets rid of the emotional sort of heights that we are able to handle, because the human brain can only handle so much emotion before it simply blows up and you have some sort of panic attack, because it takes a certain level of emotion to really hurt the brain. And if you are inducing too much of these certain emotions that you're getting from the internet into your brain, it can cause some serious psychological damage, especially in the long term. Years of going over these apps. That's why you see all these kids who are on like TikTok all the time. You're going to see, I think, some long-term effect from the amount of time that these kids spend on the screen compared to when we were kids. We'd be out in the open. We didn't have phones at age 7. Well, at least I don't think we did.
That is true.
And, we grew up in a completely different time than today's kids do. So the plan is to have these kids that are growing up on technology now. It's sort of one of the biggest social experiments of all time. When these kids get older, we're going to see the long-term effects of these apps and the screen time that it does to their brain and how it affects them.
Yeah, and the I think I showed you that article where I think that even now there's I don't remember, I think it was from the Wall Street Journal. There's an article saying that there's young teenagers that are starting to gain like tics, like physical tics, where they'd move in like randomly and they would have random outbursts of saying weird things because of TikTok. Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen so that people can actually
this
look
is definitely
at it.
something worth putting on.
Yeah, the I don't remember exactly what the title was, but it was pretty much explaining exactly what I was saying with the with that thing. Let's see.
These were among like young kids, like
it's like like young teenagers, like middle school, high school type of thing. Yeah, it's a mysterious rise in cases of especially teen girls, because girls are the ones that usually watch TikTok for hours and hours, with sudden severe physical tics, including jerking motions and verbal outbursts, and sometimes blurting out the word beans, led doctors to TikTok. And that's from the Wall Street Journal. And thinking about that, like, it's already happening. Things like what you're talking about are already beginning to happen. Imagine what it can do, for the kids that are now starting to find the technology now. What are they going to do in 20 years? How they're going to be like in 17, 16 years from now,
Well, in a way, if they're born with this from the beginning, all this technology and all this, I think in a way they're going to be able to adapt, but it's not going to be the most optimal a way of functioning in a way, because if they're having tics and all types of like nervous breakdowns and stuff like that, then it's not gonna be a positive outcome in the long run. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I emphasize this technology stuff because this is really what separates the old days of Stoicism and sort of all these philosophies and like reading books and sort of getting information then. Now it's a completely different world because the internet has completely changed the game. It has not changed the fundamentals of human behavior, like from how we've been, how evolution works, but it is changing the way we react to things because of, it's like, as I said, it's like a social experiment. So back in the day, you wouldn't have a phone to constantly take your attention. There was more time for like simple things, like simply like meditating or reading a book and allowing your mind to make up things rather than actually seeing it on a screen. So it was a lot easier to actually practice a little more better. It was easier to practice Stoicism before than I think it is today.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's why it should be more emphasized today than before, because it does take a lot of willpower to practice with all these distractions that we have. And like you guys were saying, I believe TikTok is really, really changing the game on how they are using the brain to stay hooked to the constant entertainment. I mean, short videos of certain things constantly is gonna have your brain always going,
and all the social media apps are following YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. They're all doing it. And I'm gonna actually read something off the article real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It says, according to a spate of recent medical journal articles, doctors say that the girls had been watching videos of TikTok influencers who said they had Tourette syndrome, a nervous system disorder that causes people to make repetitive, involuntary movements or sounds. No one has tracked these cases nationally, but pediatric movement disorder centers across the U.S. are reporting an influx of teen girls with similar tics. Donald Gilbert, a neurologist at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center who specializes in pediatric movement disorders and Tourette syndrome, has seen about 10 new teens with tics a month since March 2020. Before the pandemic, his clinic has seen at most one a month. So since Corona...
Mm-hmm.
Since March of 2020, he's seen 10 a month at least, or around there. I think it's about 10 new teens a month.
It seems to be a newer development as well.
And so this is all relatively new. This this was updated October 2021. So this was very recent that they've started to actually record this and actually notice that there's an issue here. And what you're saying, yeah, TikTok is a big thing, which is probably what is what's really starting to mentally and physically harm people. In a way, like, and it's not even like, I guess I don't know what it could be, but I guess these people are seeing, these people that were seeing someone with Tourette syndrome on there, and somehow their brain just got it through the technology.
Oh yeah.
Or just constantly watching that creator's posts, it starts to adapt. They start to adapt to it, and I guess it creates it within themselves somehow, and that's weird.
Well, a good thing about Stoicism is that it also talks about following the natural things in life. So things like this, when you're having negative outcomes, because these things, in all honesty, were not meant to be. These are man-made technology. So yes, there is a benefit and there's an easier way of communicating and doing all types of things, but at the same time, it leaves a lot of room for all these negative things. So I don't know how in the future they're gonna handle all that, because they're gonna be more symptoms as this keeps going on, because they're gonna find a new way to get you more hooked. They're gonna find a way that you're gonna be 24/7 non-stop in a way. So it's scary stuff.
Yeah,
because they done the research on how to do all this.
Sooner or later, they're gonna give us all glasses that are gonna have it in the lens.
That is true.
Yeah. Or contacts. I think they're even trying to do contacts and shit. Give you AR.
I always get freaked out about those type of movies where they show things like this and like how they're gonna like use technology to fuck up the human experience in life. So I don't know. It's looking possible now, and it's only the beginning stages of figuring out how to manipulate the brain in such a way that you're completely hooked, and you just self-destruct in a way. So
Yeah, forget flying cars. You're gonna be able to see
maybe in a virtual
Pokemon in real life or
reality.
something. You're gonna actually see Pokemon in real life. Like that's what they're going for now. They don't care about
Right.
flying cars.
I really think it's important to get back to basics, like go back to the human fundamentals, fundamentals that actually make us human. So like what we've suggested, what we suggested like in like previous YouTube videos is that it could be beneficial sometimes to do absolutely nothing. And why is that beneficial to do absolutely nothing? My opinion is because you need to get your mind away from everything that goes on in life, all the technology. Just sometimes you just need a minute to just reflect, or not even reflect. Sometimes just absolutely do nothing, recharge the brain, let yourself get back to like basic mode, and sort of like rekindle like everything that's going on in the brain, because we're consuming so much at a rapid rate. And to do nothing sometimes and just maybe sit down and just kind of you don't even have to think about anything. You just need to sit there and kind of just be at one with nature just for a few minutes, maybe a half hour, just to kind of like go back to neutral, because we're always like rushing around, we're always panicking about things. The social anxiety has gone way through the roof. So I think by doing absolutely nothing sometimes, putting down the phone, put the phone down on its head and just sort of like sit down, maybe reflect, maybe not reflect, doesn't really matter. Just kind of just sit, do nothing, and try to recharge. What do you think about that, Joe?
Well, I think that's based on what we're talking about. That's really a major point in the principles of Stoicism. One of the main doctrines is that the whole point of this is to have your mind to be as calm as possible in life. To really have grounding in reality, because we're supposed to live here in the present moment. That's the truth. But when we're on the phones, we're distracted doing things that we're not meant to be in a way. Then that creates us to be disconnected. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you ever noticed, but if you spend a certain amount of hours on your phone, just constantly watching different type of stuff, and then you go out and interact with people, there's something off. It happens to me when I do it. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that. But if, let's say, I spend at least 30 minutes of just calming down and just breathing, and I go out and interact with people, I feel a lot more calm. I feel a lot more confident. I do better with eye contact and stuff like that. So I truly believe that it's in our natural state just to be as calm as possible. And just, that's how you do it, just by, going out and doing your regular things without all these distractions and overthinking. Because that's what you're doing. When you're watching all these videos, you're overusing your mind. You're supposed to rest in a way, that people don't talk about rest enough. We live in such a way that we have to constantly, you have to hustle, it's always something you have to do. There's no rest in time. And that's one of the main points of Stoicism, is that, you have to balance rest and take the right actions. That way you have a calmer mind.
Yeah.
So
speaking of calmer mind, I want to get into Stoicism and how it relates to like the dating scene, right? So this is very important, because a lot of times when a man is dating a woman, right, a woman knows how to get under your skin. They know this well. They know this at an intellectual level that most guys are incapable of understanding at the moment. How does this relate? So let's just say you're about to get into an argument, right? Let's say your girl is flipping out over something, sort of dumb, sort of like small. It's not really a small thing to her, but it's kind of a small thing. And she kind of, she starts something. Now, a lot of guys, what they do, and I've seen this personally, is they start to freak out. They lose all emotional self-control because they do not practice stoicism. No, that's not why. It's because they're simply not. Some of them lack the emotional intelligence, right? They're ignorant, and they're not intending to try to figure
understand what's going on.
Yeah, why she might be freaking out over small things, and then usually it escalates to where it can escalate into a big argument, and there's cursing, and then they start cursing him out, and they punch we've all heard the trope of the guy getting mad at the girl. He hits the wall, makes a hole in the wall, storms out, goes to the bar, drinks, and gets drunk. Like, we know that concept, right? It's also a realistic thing. But a lot of the times, guys don't know what to do when they're getting tested by their girl or something like that, and they don't know how to handle rejection as well. So if they get rejected by a girl, they go crazy, right? They don't know how to handle it, and sometimes, like, we have screenshots of like guys getting pissed off that the girl rejected them. It's like, well, F you then, bye, and they just like, well, you're not good enough for me anyway. And they just get they lose their emotional self-control.
Right. So I think that comes hand in hand with what we're talking about, because I feel like a woman will test you just like the world's going to test you. And if you rather escape and not deal with it, then the world or your woman are gonna find out. You know, sometimes guys will, when the girls get mad, they'll try not to interact with her. They'll try to avoid it, and then she gets even more mad, or they overdo it because they're coming out of a place that they know they're being weak, so they just storm out to prove that they're strong, but they're actually being weaker by doing that. So if you've been constantly resting, doing the right actions that you have to do in your life, taking care of yourself, taking care of the people around you, if small stuff like that, like an argument, and she comes at you and she can tell that you've been on your grind and that you're completely focused, she knows that you're not gonna, she can't really break you because you already been doing this. Like, you've been challenged by the world and you've been standing just the same way. So if she knows that, okay, this guy is really about it, she can feel that this man, is putting the work and he's not being selfish and, taking all these pleasures and all this type of stuff, then she'll try not to. And also, I also feel like if you're really focused and you are confident in what you're doing constantly day by day with your routine, if you're doing everything in a way that makes you happy, then you find that your personality, you're very humorous, you're very, relaxed.
Yeah.
You don't really take it seriously because, like, what's the point of all this? I have to do this later on. I have no time for this. So whenever I find myself where I'm doing the things I'm supposed to do and I feel confident, I'm very humorous. It's like, oh, like, I just play with her, tease her. I'm like, oh, you talking to me like that? Like, I'll just be, teaseful, playful about it.
Yeah.
And then it calms down because she knows that this is nothing.
It's when you take it too seriously and then you go way over the top and you completely blow it out of proportion. That's when she loses her crap, because if you can handle your own stuff, she could sense that. And
exactly.
She'll calm down as a result, because as a man, you should be leading. And if you lose your emotional self-control, then she's going to lose her emotional self-control. But if you maintain your aurora and your vibe about you,
she'll
and
reward you.
Yeah, exactly. She's going to follow in that direction. So let's just say she starts yelling at you about something. Let's just say like the extreme. She's yelling at you, and you sort of like, hey, what are you so mad about? And you sort of tickle her or something, and then you sort of like you treat it as a little joke, like the bratty little sister dynamic. And she's gonna be like, she can't even argue with you at that point because you're not fighting back. But the second you start yelling at her, like, no, you don't know what you're talking about, and then it completely gets out of proportion, and then she starts raising her voice even more and she's cursing you out. A guy who knows what he's about, he's not insecure, he knows exactly what's going on here. He's not gonna lose his shit. He's going to maintain the calm of aura because he understands what's going on, and he's gonna treat it like a small situation. He's not going to get overblown about it. He's not going to, there's no reason to raise his voice even. He'll simply either treat it as a joke, or he'll try to solve the problem in a positive way, because you could solve problems in a negative way and a positive way. Depending on if you can control yourself, because if you can't even control your own emotions, don't even try to start dating. Don't even try to get out there. You need to work on yourself a little bit before you even decide to handle a woman, especially even more than one. If you're going to go out and try to date multiple women or something like that, you definitely need to be able to have a good sense of emotional self-control. It's very important.
And one thing I want to add to what you just said too is that if you've been focused and you've been paying attention to what's going on in your life, you know the angle that she's coming from. So let's say if you've been just playing video games after work all day, and she can, she's mad around the house, but you don't even notice that because you're just on your phone, you're playing video games and all that. But if you've been focused and you've been paying attention to what's going on around, you know that she's upset because of this, and you can see the angle she's coming from, then you already have the knowledge, so it's not really a thing to really worry about. But some guys, when the girls comes at them, they're clueless. And then they get in this mode that, okay, I don't know what to do now. I don't know how to solve this, so I'm just going to, say whatever I can. And then they end up lying. They end up using aggression, whatever they can use to calm that situation, because they had no knowledge about it. They really didn't understand. Why are you so mad at me for? Like, they don't understand that concept. Yeah. But if you're being focused, you're like, hey, I know where you're coming from. You explain the situation. I've been doing this and this and this, and then you're like, so, you do that, you get the knowledge, you let them know, and then you're also playful about it. And that really comes down to the situation, because she knows you've been paying attention. You know what's going on.
Yeah. A man who knows what he's doing, he knows when it's time to get angry. He knows when it's time to feel sad. He knows when are the best times and the worst times to sort of show what sort of emotions. There are times when it's necessary, like it's like with the men crying thing. Well, if your dog dies or something like that, it's a natural thing.
Yeah.
It's not to say you don't have to cry like every time, something goes wrong at work or something like that. Like, oh my God. But it's really important to control when and where and how you should use your emotions, and you should use it to your advantage. You should be able to emotionally tell what's going on and when, in order to have like a good reading of any social situation that you might be in. There are times when guys get angry it is absolutely not necessary to get angry at. A business, whether it be a business situation, a deal, or dealing with a woman in your dating life, or dealing maybe with a family member, there are times to let your emotions show, and then there are times to keep cool, smile, and possibly walk away if you must. It's a very important skill to have, and we're losing that skill as time goes on because people are not being socially calibrated anymore. It is becoming a lost art, and many people do not know how to handle themselves in certain situations, and they completely lose it.
Right.
And if you're trying to grow a business or something, and you're trying to make a deal with an opposite business, people in general, then you're going to fail if you cannot handle your emotions, or if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time and you mess with the wrong person at the wrong time, you are setting yourself up for failure. That's why emotional self-control is so important, and especially when dealing with a woman, because all it takes is one text message, one thing that you said to some girl once that she could use against you in the future.
Oh yeah, you call her a bitch once, and then she'll never forget that. She'll always come back.
She'll
to
save
you
that text message,
that, right.
and then she'll use it in the future, and then someone will see it somewhere somehow, and it will be used against you.
And you get banned on Tinder.
That's right. If you're trying to advance your reputation, and you have lack of emotional self-control, and you blow up on somebody that you should not have, especially in the world where you could save anything that you ever say on your phone. So anything you say on any social platform or any text message can be saved and possibly one day used against you. We've seen that with the James Gunn tweets, how he got originally fired from doing Guardians of the Galaxy because he said some old tweets back in like 2008, and they have resurfaced, and then he got fired. Of course, he got rehired, but he still got fired for an amount of time because of something he said a long time ago. Things that you say on the internet or say in general that could be recorded at any time in any place will hurt you if you're not using your emotional wits, if you don't have a good understanding of emotional self-control.
Yeah, that's why like trolling people is like a dangerous game, because like you can do it and like you can get away with it, but like if you do it at the wrong time with the wrong person,
you have
like,
to know when it's acceptable.
They could just turn that right around on you, and they can take control of that, and that's the whole issue with that. Like I like to troll people like when I can, because like I usually, especially like when I'm at work or something, because like I have like no emotion at work, like unless if the spirit of customer service takes over my body, and then I'm doing my thing, but otherwise like I don't really emote as much unless if I'm trying to troll somebody, and I just
We understand. Yeah, well, that goes back to understanding when is the right time to utilize my emotions. Is it right to get angry right now? Is it good to be this emotion, that emotion, wherever you may be, whatever you're doing with? Most of the time, the answer is probably not, and you should probably remain calm at all times, unless you're like a professional fighter or something, and you have to use that anger and strategically, and you have to use that. You have to, use your skills in a productive way. Most of the time, you're going to be, no matter what you think, you're going to be put in a situation one day where you will be tested. Life will find a way. If you go outside and you deal with people, especially if you're a business owner or you work for a company, there will be a time where you will be confronted with a test, and this test is going to show the world what you're made of and how well you can handle yourself in this situation. There will always be a time where you will need to utilize these social skills, and it will come in handy. Mark my words.
Well, I think that also too that your emotions are based on your actions. So if you've been doing the right actions for yourself, then the main emotion that you project to other people will be based on that. Mm-hmm. So if somebody comes at you and you're already angry at your life, that you get no sleep, you're eating junk food, you're watching all this TV, consuming all this stuff in your mind, you're already in a state that you're most likely going to get angry based on your actions.
That's right.
So if you're already living a life where you're doing the right things for yourself, you're already planting all these seeds that you're growing as a person, you're gonna be a happy person. You're not even mad at yourself. You're like, damn, I'm doing all this. You're confident, you feel good about yourself. So the main thing that probably gonna happen is that you're either gonna say something in a good humor, a good reasoning, good sense, and then that's how you communicate with people. People can tell when you're happy. They can tell when
I was just thinking,
you're slacking. They can tell when you're down. They might not say it to your face, but they can give you that look like what's going on here.
People have they could tell when you're feeling a certain type of way. If you pretty much just hate yourself, and you will exhibit certain social cues that people will see that they can tell you're very angry. If, just like you said, if you're not eating right, if you're eating a very unhealthy diet, and you're not exercising, and you're not doing things to make your life a little bit easier, you're not taking action, you're not on your grind, right? People will be able to tell that, and they'll know that something's off. So they'll be careful of what they say around you, and it actually might cause others to not behave their full selves around you, because they might not feel comfortable, because they can tell that something's off. And you can tell the difference between someone who can handle their emotions and someone who is willing to burst at any moment. That's why there are some people you want to stay away from, because if you get near them or if you talk to them, you could easily say something that triggers them, and it causes a whole situation that you don't want to get into.
Definitely. And I also seen scenarios where certain people in their life, they might be upset that they're not getting a certain type of respect or some type of interaction with people. It's like, oh, why people treat me this way? Why am I, why is this going on? But they don't look at their own actions. You know what I mean? If you don't respect yourself, I'm guaranteed people are not going to respect you.
That's right.
It's like, I really believe in cause and effect. I really believe that if you really are doing things that you should not be doing, it's going to project into other areas of your life. You know what I mean? Your family can tell, your friends can tell, your coworkers can tell. It's just energy how it goes. You know what I mean? If you're slacking in your own life, there's going to be a high chance that you're going to be late for work. There's going to be a high chance that you might argue with your family. There might be a high chance that you may not show up to your friends because you're like, oh, I'm not in the mood. I'm not doing all this. So that makes your life even more miserable because of your own actions. So you already bury yourself so deep that you're in a state that to get out of that, it will be a 1,000 times worse than if you slowly, progress in your life. So sometimes a lot of people, they get in that hole, and at that point, it's very hard for themselves to get out of them. And then they start blaming other people. They start seeking help for others, thinking that, my therapist is going to fix this, or if I had this or this, it will be fixed. But it all really comes down to your own actions. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I think it's based upon yourself. Like, you control your actions, and it's up to you on, what you actually do with yourself. Like, you can't put the blame on anyone else other than yourself. And that's why, a lot of, recently I've been trying to more and more have a mindset of, what is the most positive thing that can come out of this situation? Like, I got a 70 on this test. Well, at least I didn't get a 65. Mm-hmm. I put in as much work as I could. It wasn't the best, but I'm going to try again to keep doing better. And I'm not going, oh, I got a 70 on this test. I'm not doing good. I'm going to get yelled at by everybody. all that stuff. You just take what it is, look at the positive sides of these things, and you focus on how you can either improve or how you can make it consistent.
Exactly. And
most recently, that's honestly, I feel like that's helped me a lot, like staying positive. Oh, yeah. And I try doing this with like everybody, even at work, on group chats that I'm in for like different things. I always try to show the positive side of specific situations that might not look good, and everyone's like, look at you over there with the positivity. I'm like, well, you better take it in, because you guys don't have
There's
any.
no other option now.
Yeah, you guys don't have any positivity in you if you're not thinking this way.
Right.
So you better take it in and start thinking in the same way. And a lot of people don't. And honestly, I feel like everyone should start looking at it in that aspect, but looking at it in other ways as well. Like taking that in. Okay, I have so this is the positive side of this, but now where can I go? Realistically, what can I do about this now? And some people, they see it and they emote negatively, like if it's let's say it's a bad thing.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that, like absorbing people's emotions, which could be very dangerous, but if you're around the wrong people. So let's just say, if you're trying to work on your emotional self-control, one of the main things I would suggest is you want to, one of the laws of power we did, which was avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. So that's a very important, law, because obviously the title, right? Because if you are around the wrong people, they're going to find a way to bring out the negative emotions in you. And this may not be this may not be on purpose on their part, but it may just come as a side effect of you being around them. Let's just say you're a happy guy and you're doing exactly what you thought and what you said before, is that you always try to stick to the positive emotions, which is what Stoicism is all about. So if you're trying to go about your day and you're in a really positive mood, you're really trying to be your best self in that day, in every moment that you try. And let's just say you work at a job and the person you're paired up with in that job is a very unhappy, low energy, unlucky sort of type of person. Now, it may not be his fault exactly. There could be things going around him. There's so many different factors, but there is a chance that you go in that situation working with that person, you could absorb their energy. It could even be by accident, but you being around them and you talking to them, you get a sense of the environment that you're in, because sometimes unfortunately you do adapt to the environment that you put yourself in. So that person's emotions can affect you in a way if you decide to let it, and how you react to it.
Yeah, I feel like that's also a battle of wills as well, because let's say if you are paired up, if you, a positive person, is paired up with a negative person, and let's say if that negativity that they have is self-inflicted upon them, right? It will become a battle of wills depending upon who's going to break and start flowing into the other side. If you can give enough positivity to that guy to make him start to feel positive and start to, change and give him some sort of light, then that's good. But you have to be careful and not let his darkness fill you and his negativity, because that can happen. Both sides can happen, I feel. And I feel like it's not your problem to fix other people's issues, because in the law, someone tried doing that to some chick, and he ended up like losing like everything because she was unhappy or whatever. And so you got to do it in a way, like you got to just be yourself and be positive without letting any of the negativity come in. And you won't, like, as long as you stay yourself and you don't let anything like that happen, then you'll be fine. And hopefully you can just hope that the person that's negative will take some of your positivity and move on with that. Mm-hmm. But you just can't don't let yourself go down.
I think, to be honest, that's a dangerous rule, that rule of power. Because in all respects, in life, you're going to deal with positive and negative people regardless.
That's right.
You cannot have good without evil. And if you're going to be a good man, which is about what Stoicism is about, then you're the one who understands that every morning you have to wake up and you have to deal with society, because we're social creatures and we're reasonable beings, so we have to work with what we have, and we have to work, with people. Mm-hmm. So there's gonna be coworkers you're not gonna like, family members you're not gonna like. There's gonna be friends that may not be in the path that you want them to be, but you have to work with them because that's how the system works. You know what I mean? It's like, imagine bees fighting over petty stuff and getting into arguments and not doing what they have to do. It just doesn't make sense. So as a man who's practicing knowledge and trying to be a wise person, I think you have to, the sooner you understand and realize that nobody can break your own self-control, the more forgiving you can be with others, that you can say, hey, listen, I can see how this man acts, I understand where he's coming from, and I know who I am, and I know that even though I can judge others and try to make them to be what I want them to be, it's not going to happen, because the world needs that person to be that way. You need the villain to have the whole story. You cannot have a hero, and not have a villain. You need to have everybody working together so this whole thing can work. You know what I mean? So the sooner you realize, all right, I got to deal with this type of people. You got to deal with liars. You got to deal with people who are cynical. You got to deal with negative people. But if you can make it work with them, by using your own reasoning and knowing how to use your social skills, you can make it work. I work with people who at first, they were not the most positive, or they were not very social in a way, but I made myself interact with them because I understand that it is up to me, if I want to work in this place, to be social. I know that that's the best way, and we can help out each other at work and any activity. So if you look, I think in past videos you guys talk about the importance of hanging out with other males, right? That's because we all have the same ability to be reasonable and social.
That's right.
And every person in the group you see is different. They'll have different skills. You know what I mean? You may have the intelligent guy, you may have the one who's the strongest, but you gotta all figure it out how to make it all work together. So you gotta accept reality for what it is.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. It's very important to have self-control, because it's what you do with the people that you work with. Right? It's how you react to like they're gonna do what they do regardless. You're
Right.
not gonna just go up there like, hey, I stop acting like that. Stop doing that. It's not gonna happen that way. People are gonna be as they are regardless. Now you have to find a way because we're like opportunists, like we're optimists. We try to find the best way of handling each situation. So if you maintain who you are throughout every situation and know your values, know your principles, know how to react to certain things, no matter who you work with, you could find a way to manage your coworker or whoever that you're dealing with, family member, friend, doesn't matter. Like, because everybody goes through stuff, and we always have different things that we have to be working on. And some days might not be as good as others. And depending on who you have to work with and what you have to get done, it's as long as you're not completely letting the other person's emotions affect yours. It's about really standing your ground in a way, because being able to deal with what you're given.
Right. And you can testify this in your own personal experience, but you notice in your past relationships or your current relationship that you're doing, you notice how you have this personality, right? You're the type of people that you work hard, you take care of your health, you're very into fitness. That's what your life revolves around. You notice how the girl that you might be going out with at the same time, how she starts getting those same traits as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that the main thing about this is to lead by example, right? If
Sure.
you want people to follow a certain ideal, they have to see it in you first.
You have
so
to
they
be
can
that person.
follow it,
That's
right?
right.
So I notice a pattern that whenever I'm doing the things that I want to do, I notice other people following that. And then that's something that makes me happy because, I could have been like, hey, why are you not doing this? I could have been judgmental about it. And I could have been like, oh, well, you should be doing what I'm doing, blah, 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 and all this. But after a certain time, without me even doing anything, they just start following because
You don't
they
even
see,
have to say anything. They'll just do. It's a natural
they'll
thing.
do
They'll
it.
just do it because
Right.
they find influence in you, right?
Mhm.
It's very powerful to be an important influence of those around you.
That's why.
If you're doing exactly what you want and living the way you want, people will sort of flock to the people who like you can relate to and value with. They will adapt what you do, and it could actually make it all the better if you're on the same purpose, if you're on sort of the same
Positive way.
yeah, same positive drive, and you have similar goals that you want to accomplish. So you could actually, your positive emotions can actually influence others. And then, like, let's just say you're like how we go to the gym, right? And you started going to the gym first, and then I ended up going to the gym as well. And doing this action alone was able to spike a lot more positive emotions because you're literally accomplishing something every single day, and you're getting stronger, you're getting faster, you're becoming more intelligent, and your muscles are getting bigger as the years goes by. And it's really it's important to be always accomplishing new goals. And if you're around people with the same sort of goals and same positive emotions, it's really a win-win.
That's why, like you said before, when it comes to that law, that's why I think it's difficult to follow in a sense, because I notice a pattern that people nowadays, they're like, oh, because I'm on my grind and my friends and family members are not following my grind, they start to isolate themselves. Like, oh, I'll just do it by myself. I'm the lone wolf and all that. And I done that myself too, thinking that, because I have the highest like goals and that I want to reach, and nobody else is following the same will that I want to, accomplish things. I start isolating myself and thinking that, hey, you have to do this alone. But the reality is that you have to work with the people. You have to work amongst the people, because the moment you disconnect from the people, that's when bad things are going to start happening to you, because people can tell the negativity that you may think that you're superior than them. They're like, okay, he's trying to do all this and he's doing it in an arrogant, like, negative way, because now you became the problem, because now you don't want to deal with people. You're like, oh, you know what? If they're not following my will, I'm going to avoid them and they can just, F themselves. But if you realize from the get-go that you had to work with them and that you can make a positive thing, you can, interact with people in a good way and have a greater time in life and just keep doing what you have to do. Nobody's really stopping you from that. If they are trying to stop you, you can always find a way. You're a reasonable person. You can find a way to tweak that around. You know what I mean? So, it's hard to sometimes understand other people's why these things are happening, but that's why a big deal with Stoicism is to understand that certain circumstances you won't be able to control, and some people you might not be able to save, and they might stay negative, but you can always, with your self-control and your ability to think, you have a way to find what you want to do. You know what I mean? If you cannot find it, then hey, you gotta go all out, in a way, but you gotta do it in a way that's positive and that you're not affecting nobody negatively.
Yeah.
You know what I
It's
mean?
really about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and why you're here. Like, it's really important to know yourself.
Your
right?
principles.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have principles these days. They follow easily what others are doing. They follow the trends.
That's right.
And I think one of the main things too, not only the pleasures that we're following with the social medias and all these ways of entertainment, but it's also that we're not educating on character, virtue. That's one thing you describe on the description, is that they emphasize virtue and character heavily on this stoicism, because men who have character and virtues are in a way helping the world. They're positive people who every day they gotta fight to keep themselves in a positive sense. They have to struggle to keep growing. They're trying to help the community. Those are the type of people that you need. But people nowadays, they might feel like they have to be on their own, and they might have more selfish thoughts because of what they're learning. That you have to get your own thing, get your own that. So they're losing that character that people back then had, that was very important, and that I think is positive. So I don't know. You guys think that guys should in a way follow your own code, disregarding other people, or you think that you have to find a way, to make it work with society?
Well, I think that you have to. I mean, it's all about the journey, right? So if you find a purpose that you really want to get into in your life, and you have a path that you want to follow, I think it's important to take and research what others have done, but implement it in your own way. So let's just say you want to become a bodybuilder, and you look at the greats of our time, well, of their time. Arnold Schwarzenegger, you look at Frank Zane, you look at the old guys, and you look at the newer guys. You take what they've done and you sort of implement newer techniques and based on new research, and then you maybe try some stuff of your own. See what works for you, because everyone has a different path that they like to go on. See what sort of diet plan works for your genetics. See what weight lifts are best for your bone structure, if you're an endomorph. So everybody has a different way of sort of living their path, and it's important to really try different things in your life, and you want to experiment. So I think experimentation combined with like the influence of others. So you want to find people and maybe mentors that you can look up to and people that you can learn from, and then use that information and use it to build your own character, and then create something that stands for what you are, and who the person that you want to believe in, which should be yourself. That's why you need to know who you are and what you want to do in your life, and not feel the need to follow others, but you want to learn from others' mistakes. You want to learn from others' doings as well, because that's how we learn. That's how humans, that's how children grow up, is that they see what goes on around them and they interpret it in their own way, and then they create something out of it. That's sort of how we've built civilizations that we have today.
So in a sense, you're saying that it's better to create a foundation based on your own experience and also what other people have done before, and build that foundation, and then the rest is up to you in a way that you tweak it.
Also, that's the optimal way.
Right.
I think everyone has their own way of doing things, and it's very important. It takes time. People want the quick fix. They think that tomorrow I'm not gonna feel anything. I'm not gonna be angry. I'm not gonna be sad ever again. It doesn't work like that. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes a lot of effort to become the person that you want. If you have a vision, it takes time to accomplish that vision, and you're gonna have to stumble upon the way. Don't expect your life to be completely free of any fighting, free of any misery, free of any obstacles, because they will come, whether you like it or not. It's just kind of how nature is. But it's going to be how you react to those obstacles, which will define who you are. Now, the person we are right now, the way we handle things, the way we react to things, the way we feel about things, may be different in the next few years to come, because our experiences will end up shaping us from this moment on. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Some crazy event could happen that could alter the life of our future.
Whole life.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's very important to also always be asking questions. Never assume you have the answers as well, because just because you feel a certain way about life today, your experience tomorrow will affect your future, because you never know what can affect you. And there's so much to learn. Even if you're 65 years old and you think that you've seen it all, there's always more to see. And when we realize that, it's very important that you are who you are now, But just understand that you may be a different person in a few years, and your morals may change, your mindset may change. We've seen it from time and time again. The great people of all time were one way at a certain point in their life, and then over time they will evolve and they'll gain new experiences. They'll go different places on the earth. They'll travel. They'll go to different countries. They'll find out more about life than they ever thought was possible. They'll understand new meanings and new values that they could add to their life, thus creating their own path. Thus, not only have they followed the footsteps of others, but they've also made their own dent in the universe. They also made their own imprint. So when you try to follow someone else's plan of life, you'll probably fail because their plan may not be your plan, and you don't know what's going to happen next in your own life. So just because someone did something doesn't mean you're going to be able to do the exact same thing, but you can create something similar, or you can create something even bigger, because you never know, right? We always try to mimic others of what we see. Like, it's like children, the mind of a sponge, always looking at things and trying to imitate them. And then when you imitate them, you realize that that's not really who I am, and that's sort of how you become a little bit better.
One thing I also want to mention, because you said a lot. That was a lot of
that was like a whole monologue. Yeah, that was
but
good.
One thing that I do want to add is you said that maybe at first you're not going to feel like the next day you're not going to be, I'm going to take charge of my life. I'm going to take all these actions and right thinking and start changing your life for the positive. And according to Marcus Aurelius, he was a big time Stoic philosopher. According in his book, The Meditations, it takes 10 days, apparently. 10 days to, if you eat healthy, calm your mind, meditate. Within 10 days, you can feel a difference in your body, right? And that's easy, right? You can track that, right? 10 days, and you see how you feel better. But the problem is gonna be that your tendencies are gonna take over, and that's the real battle. You know what I mean? Because people struggle of, all right, I'm gonna do this for, they start this journey and then they fall back. They do it again, they fall back. Sometimes they even go lower than before, because the habits are very hard to break. And that's when you have to constantly keep track of what's going on. That's why you always have to stay present. And that's the whole deal with Stoicism, is that even the big time philosophers back in the days, they will emphasize that they will fall. Yeah, you will, temptation is part of humanity. You're going to fall again. But the point is to try to minimize the distractions and start focusing more on the growth. So, within 10 days, you can feel a lot better in your life, and you can start, seeing some change. But the thing is, the main emphasis is to slowly be more aware that, okay, you feel that this habit might, okay, I want to eat unhealthy, or, I want to do this. I want to, watch videos. You have that, that impulse, right? You have to be more aware of them, and then to find better ways to express that, because a lot of the human impulses that go through the body, they can be used healthy, or they can be used negatively. So yeah, I just feel like saying all that just because
Yeah, I just had something that just flew right on my
yeah
head. No, oh yeah, I got it now. Yeah, no, it's based upon like self-discipline and
right.
and self-control.
The endurance.
Because if you have that discipline and you have that self-control, even if you don't have the self-control but you still have the discipline, like you were saying before, like let's say you're going out to eat with a bunch of people, and so you're feeling good, so you want to order something that you probably shouldn't be ordering.
Right.
But if you got the discipline and you have this, if you have self-discipline, you realize that you did this, and you're like, I can't let myself do this again. And so then you go back to normal the next day, and you're doing the things, and you pretend like, like that happened, and that's fine.
That's it.
You leave it there. It is what it is. Like, some people can't. That's another thing. Some people just can't move on from certain things that happened in the past. Like these actions that they did happen,
right.
but they can't let go of what they have done, or they can't, or the result of that action they can't let go of, and they feel like it's it's either it's their fault or
the guilt,
or screw that person, like maybe they were yelling at somebody, screw that person because they said this thing to them or something, but those things happened already. You can't change that for your future. You have to take whatever happened and continue on forward. Don't let that bother you. You learn from the mistakes that you've made, or you learn from the actions that you've taken, and you see the result, and you move forward with that knowledge. And that's what a lot of people nowadays, especially people that are even our age or even a little bit older, are struggling with that. People that are younger are definitely struggling completely. But if we learn from the mistakes that we make, and we see our actions from a third person point of view, we can learn a lot about our emotional state, and how we can improve ourselves to be better people, not just better people in like physically, mentally. We can as a also sociologically as well, however the word is that's said, like for others around you as well, because you could be that guy that's going to start yelling at coworkers about dumb stuff, but everyone's going to hate you, and you got to think about that.
It's not strategic that way. You don't want to make enemies. You want to always be making more friends than enemies at all costs whenever you can, because you never know when they're going to come in handy.
Definitely.
Yeah,
you're meant to work together.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So
by making enemies, it is a foolish decision. If you outburst on somebody, which is why we go back to maintaining emotional self-control is so powerful, and I think that's why practicing Stoicism, reading different books on it, really understanding what it's about, is very important, because, as I said earlier, you'll be tested in ways you never thought you would. And when the times when you need emotional self-control are going to be the times that really show others around you also like who you really are and what you can handle, and it could damage your reputation if you're not socially aware of what you're doing.
Do you mind if I add something to what Mike was saying just in the comments, just because he said a really good point that a lot of people cannot move on from the past, or they get anxious about the future.
That's right.
So a good thing about when you follow the teachings, the Stoic teachings, is that they believe that everything is it goes accords with nature. Like everything has its own time, everything has its own thing. So it's a good way of, whenever you feel like you fail at something, it's a good way of thinking that this was meant to be, and this is a lesson. That you said, like, I can learn from everything is a lesson. I can learn from this. But sometimes you will stumble, you will fall, and that will be part of the nature of who you are. Because that's development. You see it in movies, and you love seeing it on TV shows, and why not? For example, Avatar, Zuko. A lot of people love Zuko, their story, because he goes through a lot of falls, right?
A lot.
But that's his nature and how he learns. He was never the one that was always like the perfect one. He always had to struggle.
He was never Azula.
He became being the Fire Lord.
The Fire Lord, yeah.
The king. You know what I mean?
He stood up to his father too. Like he's gone through so much, and his redemption arc was like such a pleasing and such a powerful part of the story of Avatar, because he went through so much as a kid, and trying to find himself to be thinking that whatever his father says was going to be what his destiny was, but it really isn't. And I love Uncle Iroh for the whole speech that he gave him, for finding his own destiny and being being himself, and finding that, and actually accomplishing the things that he wanted to do, and following his own purpose, finding his own purpose and following through, which gave him to be the Avatar, not the Avatar,
person
but
who he is.
the Avatar's best friend, but and also the Fire Lord.
Yeah, definitely, because that's one of the main Stoic principles right there, which is you have to find your own nature. Like Zuko, from what you see when he was growing up, you knew that he was a good person at heart. You knew that, even when he was trying to be a villain, there was moments that you could see that he was not bad. He was just using his mind in a negative way. But if you ever struggle with, when you make certain decisions that may not be the best, try to realize too that deep down you feel the guilt. You feel that this was not correct. That means that your nature is good, that you want to be a good person, and that you should follow your nature, but you're just not taking the right actions. So a way to move forward is to understand that, okay, I'm trying to be a good person. I did a mistake. I fumbled. But if I follow who I really am, go back in track, then you can continue on. So
that's why it's about how you handle it, and how you really see and view the situation as how you can resolve things and move forward. So if you rely on the past and you sort of keep going back to where you've been, it's going to be harder to get where you're going.
Right.
it could be very hard if you make it hard. But that's why it's about going through the journey, which must be done. Every person must go through their own journey and go through their own faults to really understand how they handle things. No one's gonna be perfect, and you might not get it right the first time, but at least you could try and get a little bit better every single day. And practicing your emotions is not the most easiest task. Trust me, it's really not.
Oh no.
In some situations, it's going to be really hard to not punch somebody in the face, right? We've all been in that situation where you're extremely angry and it's not the right thing to do by getting super angry, blowing up, start yelling. It's not necessary, even though you really want to. Some people just can't help it. They just burst out of control. They just go nuts. Others are sort of on the middle ground. They're just like, okay, take a deep breath, hold on a second. There has to be a rational way to solve this moment, right? And to get through this, because those are the people who really win, is the ones who can actually maintain for a minute, sort of rationalize, see what's going on, and evaluate the situation, see what can be done. And you want to take the best optimal strategy through any obstacle that will attack you, and it will.
So one topic that I want to get into right now, just because we started this, was you in a way are saying that the people who know how to deal with things, they get the best results. So I feel like as men, we may have a problem with self-expression, right? So
it can be, yeah.
Right. That's why the self-control issue might be even more, detrimental with men, because they don't have a way to express themselves. They don't have the outlet to express themselves. That's why if you see it through history, a lot of men journal about their lives. A lot of people, Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, he will write about his life constantly. So journaling is really a good tool for men nowadays, because if you go through a lot of things as a man, a lot of challenges you have to deal with, a lot of expectations, and you're not able to express that and you just hold it in, that's going to explode one day, and that's going to make your whole life even worse, So
it's
a good thing to write, to have friends that you can talk to, that you can express in a way that you can let it out in a positive way.
It's important to talk about
journaling is very important, because every day you go through different things in life, and you have to get it out of your system. And there's no better way than just to write it down and to really think about what's on your mind. And a good thing is that you're able to track your own mind through the years. If you keep doing it, especially the days that you're not feeling like doing it, the days that you're sad, the days that you're angry, you write it down. You're keeping track of your own life, and you see through the years how you slowly been changing your own mindset. Like, I've been journaling for a while, and if I look back at some of my journey, like some of the entries that I have, I'm like, wow, I really used to think that way. And I see the way that I'm thinking now. And sometimes I see that I was thinking more positively back in the day. And I'm like, oh, wow, I was like, this is a good thing, I was doing back then. I should probably do it now. So you can always keep track of your own character if you keep journaling and you keep track of your thoughts, which is very important, because you have to, that's what you got to use every day, your own thoughts. So why not record them and, use them in an advantageous way?
Okay, that's an excellent solution. I think it's very important to talk about solutions to how to handle your self-control. Right. So one of the solutions is absolutely writing things down. It's a good way to journal your life. And sometimes it's, as you said, it's good to look back on how far you've come. Because, as I said earlier, we change as the years go by, and our mindset of things change, and our perception as well changes. So it's always good to go back to where you once were, and by journaling, you don't even know, if you do have an iPad or a tablet, or if you do have technology, utilize it, right? And you can, instead of writing, maybe you could type it.
You can do videos. We're going to look at this one day, and we're going to say, wow, this is how we were in our 20s. You know what I mean? So,
you're vlogging, you could do so many things, but by just recording your thoughts down and then viewing it long time later,
like showing it to yourself,
it's very, very powerful, and it really makes you understand.
Even like writing it, and like even like writing and publishing it, like these things, like it can help you
and others
see it, but it can also help someone else that might be someone's far away that might be going through something in one of the entries that you were going through or something, and like you might find a solution and write it down that someone was looking for. And then, somehow by a third party, you've helped somebody without even knowing it. And sometimes that's great, because as a community, people are getting better, because everyone is, if everyone journals, everyone publishes it, people can learn from so many different people, so many different scenarios of so many different things, that, you know, it can help a lot of people, and if people all come together and talk about all these different things about these journals, you know, and they talk about all these different things, and a lot of people can learn a lot of different things. I feel like a lot of problems, like mental and physical problems that people have, they're not going to go away easily, but
Right.
they can start to, you know, come back a little. They can start to retract enough to a point where it feels normal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like nowadays a lot of people, they don't do these things. They emote, they either physically emote by like crying or like screaming
Being
or
aggressive, violence.
being aggressive. They're not putting their thoughts down and letting it out through a pen or through a keyboard. They're letting it out, you know, with their words and with their, you know,
Sometimes
with
their
their
fists.
fists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because of all those things, it's making their life harder, which we had said earlier. But I feel like if we put it in words and put it out for others to read, we can help so many other people, and we can communally, you know, make the world not. It would take time, but it can, if in the future, like, you know, hundreds of years from now, you know, it can make the world better, and it can possibly retract the problems that we've already seen.
Well, that's the basis on philosophy. It's just a bunch of people trying to figure it out all together. You know, the longer the years of thinking and thoughts, the more we understand ourselves. And this is a process that's gonna keep happening, because the problems that we have today are not the same problems that we have, you know, way back. So it's always a constant thinking on how to adapt to the world, you know, and how to work with others, how to adapt, how to be resilient. So definitely journaling and always keeping track of your thoughts and knowing how to express yourself, it's a good way to know where you're at so you can help other people.
Yeah, and I was
you
gonna
know?
say, like, another solution is simply being, you know, having conversations with your friends and your family, and really connecting with others, with like-minded people. So that's why we're going back to what you were saying before about isolation. Isolation can be very dangerous, you know, for too long. And when you're able to express your thoughts with like-minded friends and family, you know, you want to basically stay connected. And I mean, I advocate for face-to-face and not these FaceTime calls and all these phone. No, no, no. Meet up with people, see them face-to-face when you can, and talk about life. And that's what philosophers did back in the time. They didn't have no iPhone. They didn't have. There was no FaceTime calls. There was no, you know.
They went to class.
Yeah, they went to, you know, they went to class, and they went to
in the schoolyard.
They went to
in the courtyard.
yeah, they went to
By
the
stone
courtyard.
temples.
They went to the big meeting, the town meeting.
Right.
Like, they actually had to go face to face. So I think it's very important to sit down sometimes with people like minded and sort of go over things and really express yourself in person in a very calm way. Express thoughts, express ideas, give your input, because it's very important for a man to put his input into to the world and see what others think of it. That's how we create things. That's how we bond. You know, of course, while we talk, most of the time we are building something as well, right? So it's always important to be expressing thoughts and ideas, and you're helping others. And the more you talk, the more expressive ideas you give. You know, you're giving back to others as well as letting out your own thoughts, because you have to let out a lot of things you feel, but you want to let things out in a positive, healthy way, and not in a negative way.
That's why it's harder to reach out people who express themselves through social media sometimes, because when you're not there with the person when they're saying something based out of their own emotions, it's hard to relate to them. So a lot of people, they go on, you know, Twitter, or they go on whatever social media that they can use, and they say something based out of their own emotions, and then it backfires because people, they cannot relate to what you're going through. They don't know no backstory. They don't understand the emotions you're going through. So they start, you know, they start insulting you or saying that your ways are wrong and blah, 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 and then you end up feeling worse. But if we were, like you guys said, talk to in person and see, you know, the body language and see some aspects of what's going on, you're able to relate more to a person. But since most days we communicate through social media and stuff like that, we only get a certain aspect of things. So we can judge them so fast without knowing what's going on.
Yeah,
That's one of the downsides.
I feel like you can. I feel like there is a way that you could use the technology of like camera wise, like FaceTime wise,
Yeah.
where you can use that as a positive tool for people that you can't reach. Like, yes, you should talk to people in person,
Right.
but for others that you can get into
Oh, yeah,
contact
well,
with, for let's say across the world,
Right.
at least it's going to take a lot of time, but you would have to, explain your life story just so they can understand, because because a lot of people that you talk to face to face, they probably have known you for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They've probably known you for a few years. These guys on the internet, they've just met you, over because that, they have Wi-Fi and they can actually connect. So you would have to give them a lot of backstory, which would take some time, but it could also help because you can get more outlook and from other perspectives of other places. Like you might just be getting, let's say you're living in New Jersey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a community of people that you talk to in person, and then you go online, you have another community of people that are online that are from, let's say Europe, Asia, all these different places, and you have the same conversation as you did with them. They can give you some other outlooks on their life, on what they've seen and experienced. Maybe they can help in some sort of way, but it would take the time where you need to learn about each other, like in the past, like their past, your past. They need to you need to understand what they've gone through, what you've gone through, and how those are different, and how they're the same, and what is the same and what's different, and all the different type of cultural boundaries that there might be. And maybe there can be some sort of way where whatever you tell them or whatever they tell you, whatever the feedback is from either party, it might be maybe even more beneficial than people in person. But you need to just take as much of all of it into account, because it's best to have more knowledge than from all places than just only some knowledge from one place. And I feel like the in-person is probably the most important.
Right.
But learning from others that are from completely different backgrounds, from completely different places, I feel like can also be beneficial, and can also, help you and look at things in a different way. Maybe
definitely. Well, I like the aspect that you said. I guess the more natural way you can use technology, the best. So if you can use a video where you have your voice, your body language, they can see your face, then that's gonna be more beneficial than just writing a post out of hate on social media, and then you just send it, and then that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because in that context, you don't know what the hell is going on here. Somebody just throws a bomb there, and you're like, okay, what the hell?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can definitely interact through videos, through your voice, phone calls, and stuff like that, definitely beneficial. But you also, like you said, the most important thing should be with the people around you, because those are the people that were given to you in life, in a way. Sometimes you can go around the world looking for all types of knowledge, looking for an answer, and then when you get the answer that you were looking for, it's probably what your mom said some days ago, or so. You're like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you get the best advice from people around you, and you just ignore it because you want to look for the ultimate, like, around the world looking for the ultimate answer. But people around you have knowledge, they have wisdom.
Yeah.
You can learn from everybody around you. So, I don't know. It's good, but it's like a balance thing. You know what I mean? You can search, but you also got to balance it out too sometimes.
Yeah, I just feel like just getting the most out of everything.
The situation, right.
Getting the most information from everyone and taking everyone's input into account.
Right.
Is I feel like the most beneficial. Like it doesn't matter whose input you take.
Right.
It's more of how much can you get, and what is the common denominator from each person's input, and maybe that is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where I was going. Like as long as you stay away from non face-to-face interactions online and go to a more face-to-face through something with a camera and a microphone, I feel like those online interactions are probably the best ones, at least for online. And then you want to be in person with other people, communicating and talking and discussing topics like what we're doing right now is discussing topics.
I think a good way to look at this is you gotta be careful how long you expand to, right? So sometimes when let's say you're trying to find, you have a question, you have something that's on your mind, you want to find the answers. You gotta look at it this way: who do you deal with the most in your life, right? First person is yourself. A lot of people don't even acknowledge that they have their own knowledge. That's why, like, writing, sometimes you have to, all right, take 30 minutes to think. All right, what do you think is the best outcome if you do this, right? You use your own self-knowledge. All right, based on my own experience of how I act and how I behave, I should do this and this and this. All right, so you got your own answer from yourself. Now, who you can go to? All right, your parents, your family. They've been with you for years. They know how you act. You ask them. You get answers from them. Your friends, they've been there for years. Because sometimes the harder, the most you expand, the less people know you, the less that they know what's going on. But start with yourself, start with the people around you, and then expand and add everything together. That sounds like a good advice.
I would say so.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You really got to be, mindful of what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
people just gotta understand that, like, things happen,
Mm.
but it's what we do after that really matters, and we can't let ourselves, be consumed by emotion.
Right.
We can emote, but we need to understand when is okay to emote and when is the right time, and how should we do it. Like, there's certain things like for example, I'll use myself as an example. A few months ago, I went to go see my aunt because she wasn't feeling too well. She had gotten cancer or whatever, so we went to go see her, and that day she passed. Like, we watched her pass, and that was fucking scarring. And like, I've been to so many funerals, I've been to so many things like that where I don't really cry because I've been to so many, you know.
Right.
But like, being there at the moment that she took her last breath is that hurts, and that's hard, especially when you've known that person for so long. I literally had to leave. I left their like place, and I sat in like the front yard, like in the front thing, just sitting there because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to emote that, but I was like, I need to just cry it out because I just watched someone who I've known for so long, like die in front of me, and I just need to let it go. But after that moment, like after it was done, after that night was over, then that's it. Like, it happened. It's in the past. I can't let myself get upset about it. These things happen. You lose people every day. You have to just remember the good times that you had them, and move on with that. You remember them in the best way possible, not the last time you saw them.
Right.
Usually, unless if it was a good time, but you have to remember the good parts and just let that be. Don't try to remember the mentally scarring moments, and even sometimes you can't always remove them from your brain, but you do your best and you just let yourself go that way. Don't let your emotions take over, and just you gotta just try to be happy as much as you can.
That's actually one of the main things that they talk about this in the Stoic philosophy is they always focus a lot on death, because death is one of the biggest changes in our life that we don't want to look up on, because we don't want to look at the end of things. But I can imagine, I'm sorry for your loss, and but I can imagine a moment like that where you experience somebody going through that change. It is life changing, because that is the biggest thing. That's the main cause that we have fear in. We don't want things to end, and that's the realization that we really have no control, because we all gonna die.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. We have no control, and it's very hard to see loved ones pass away, and it's very hard to move on. And that's one of the things that they always try to preach is that sadly we're gonna pass away, and it's just a process of change.
Yeah,
So,
and like, we don't know what happens after the fact.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's just nothingness or whatever, but we can't let our minds be consumed by that thought.
go through it.
Yeah, because I honestly, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I've honestly had times at night where I would think about death, and I would think about and this was like a long time ago. This was like 5 years ago, maybe even more, where I would think about death and like what would happen after, what is the experience of death and what happens when you die. And I've let my mind get consumed by that thought and the process, and I've tried to imagine the different ways of what you go through, what you experience in that moment, and what happens after. And it honestly, it's weird. You go through a weird, if you were on drugs or something, you just go through this weird state.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, I also thought about that like that in a sense, and I always wonder if, because it's always something that is so intriguing. There's so many, we have no answers. It's the one thing, the void. We have no idea what's going on. It's the mystery of life, death. We don't know, And I always wonder, I don't know if this is a good thought to, to have, but I always wonder if there was somebody so courageous to die in order to find out what's going on. Like somebody said, you know what? I don't want to wait. I want to see what happens. And somebody just, I ever wonder if there's somebody with that amount of balls to end their life just to find out.
Yeah,
honestly,
I
think there probably has been. I feel like there probably has been.
I always think about who in this world would think about, you know what? Let me find out. You know what I mean? Like just they're that curious about that they just want to do
If someone
it.
wants to do that, I want to go up to them and be like, hey, I need you to become a ghost so you can tell me. Because then I can write it down for you.
Yeah, right.
Like, legit.
Yeah.
Like,
Because I have so many questions. I'm like, you know what? I wonder if there's somebody out here that's like, let's fucking figure this out.
Some questions are not meant to be answered right now. They're meant to be answered later.
Yeah.
So just wait. Stop it.
Fine. But it's just it's a
a
part of
natural-
life.
yeah.
It's a change.
It's
It's
something
like
we crave to understand.
when
is
you're a
what it
kid,
is.
you always wonder about how you're gonna be as an adult. You know what I mean? You get there, you wonder how you're gonna be when you get old. Same thing with that. It's like I wonder what's gonna be the next thing. There's so many theories: reincarnation, hell, heaven, all these different things, the void, nothingness. Just so
The
many.
beauty of life is that we don't know yet.
So
Sometimes I wish we could live to 200.
Yeah. Oh,
Just,
boy.
Just so we can have a
That's
little
why-
bit more.
I don't want to see what happens to the world at that point. I don't want to know.
This may sound weird, but there's a correlation. I always think maybe that's why we're also intrigued by women too, because they're mysterious like that. Like there's no really an answer. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if I'm going very off topic about this.
I don't think. I mean,
But there's like
Mother
a
Nature,
correlation
right? Yeah.
that we want to find out things, right?
Yeah.
And death is one of them that we don't find the answers. Same thing with women sometimes that it's so natural that sometimes there is no correct answer. We try to scientifically get the formula for all this, say this to this, do this.
Yeah, sometimes
act
it just
this
is what
way,
it is.
but it doesn't work out the way you think. So I don't know. I'm trying to find a correlation that we just love to figure out the mysteries of life, but that's the thing we'll never find.
Sometimes,
You know what I mean?
Sometimes nature just is what nature does.
You only find that in the present moment.
Yeah.
You only find the answers in the present moment. Yeah,
It is what you do with what you're given is what you get.
Right. You only learn through experience. That's
right.
And I love to figure things out. That's one thing.
That's why we're here.
Love,
That's why we're here. That's why
I like
moving.
philosophy because it calms me down about that. Because sometimes I want to find out so many answers and I want to rush things. But that's the good thing about Stoicism, that it tells you the real, that it's like, hey, you got to calm down, live in the moment, and realize that this is all an experience. And that you're going to die one day.
It's all part of the process.
You just got to, and this is a whole pattern that people are going to continue after you, and, that's how it goes. So,
it's part of the game of life.
Crazy.
But closing thoughts?
I think people need to understand and do some research on Stoicism, because I feel like a lot of people nowadays, they really need like something to look at, something to read, and something
like
to
rules and
Something,
principles,
something to explore.
Yeah, because I feel like nowadays a lot of people don't even know what this is, and I feel like they've seen it. They've seen people like this, but they just never knew what it was. And I feel like if they gave it a shot and just did some research and and tried to implement it in their own lives, I feel like some people might that might have been feeling in a negative light. They can probably move that over and try to and be more positive and be in a good light. And I think that that everyone maybe not can't be for everybody, but for the people who feel like that it could be for them, I feel like that they should. I feel like everyone should at
It's
least
definitely
give it a
worth
try.
researching. Worth getting into, maybe exploring, see what you find, and see what you can learn from it. Because there's always something new to learn, something new to practice that makes you into a better person.
One thing I want to add to this too is that if you have suffered a lot in life and you may think that you may not, deserve to live a calm life and to practice being a good person, you're probably the one that can do it better than most, because suffering is the way we really learn. You know what I mean? The Buddha said it. A lot of religions say that suffering is the way, that's the path to go into. So, I know a lot of people suffer a lot of sad things and bad things, and they may not want to move on from this, but you have a lot of potential to use that to something positive. That's why philosophy is such a great tool to use everything, all the experiences that you may have had that you may think that they're bad and that they shouldn't be good to express and all that. you can turn that in a wise way to use that in a positive tone for others. So that's just my own thoughts on that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Guys, you definitely, it is very, I think it's very much of a good thing to look into Stoicism and what it represents, and develop more social, intelligence, and develop emotional self-control. There's always something to learn. The process never ends. The journey is always ongoing. So it's never too late to become a better version of yourself. So if you guys like this podcast, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And thanks for Joe for coming on.
Oh, thank you. It's always an honor.
Always a pleasure to have a good friend on. And with that said, hope you guys learned a lot from this podcast, and we will see you guys in the next one.